Happy Sunday, everyone. Today's readings about Jesus in some ways pick up where last week's left off. I didn't comment on it in last week's video, but you probably picked up on it, that people were opposed to Jesus. There was anger at him and confusion about him from early on. Last week, we saw the people of Nazareth, and they were angry at Jesus because he had called them out for expecting more because he was born there. He kind of called out their arrogance and their sense of entitlement. This week he does a healing. A paralyzed man is lowered through the roof. And the Pharisees in particular are very angry with Jesus because he does something that they believe only God can do, namely forgive sins. We see then that Jesus hangs out with tax collectors and sinners. And it's important to see what that means. A tax collector was widely disliked, not because they were dishonest, although there was some of that going on too, but because they collected taxes for the Romans. So they were seen as people who were in collaboration with the enemy. And the phrase sinners there too doesn't mean just wildly wicked people. It's a judgment about being with the wrong sorts of people. So that's really the idea of sinners. These are people that were widely thought you shouldn't eat meals with, you shouldn't hang around with. And it wasn't so much about their immorality or the things they did wrong, so much as just being the wrong sorts. So people get angry when Jesus calls a tax collector to follow him and has dinner at his house. And then Jesus commends the faith of a Roman centurion. He says he hasn't seen such faith even among God's holy people. That had to really rankle. And that one's interesting because it sets up two more of the stories that we have here. Number one, that in the midst of the storm, Jesus calls out his disciples for their lack of faith. And then at the end of our reading, when Peter walks on water very briefly with Jesus, Jesus again calls him out for his weak faith. So it's an interesting contrast. This Roman that everyone in that day and age would have hated is actually more faithful than Jesus' own disciples. So you think what that means for us, and I suppose it means that Jesus may not be everything that we expect. We look to Jesus and we expect good from him. And sometimes life is not easy. We don't get miraculous food. That doesn't happen to us, not like the feeding of the 5,000. We have loved ones who die and stay dead, not like the little girl, the daughter of Jairus. We don't get the miracles. And it can be disappointing to say, "What's up, Jesus? You promised us good things, but we don't seem to get them." And yet, we're called to trust him anyhow. At the end of the story, which we'll come to in a few weeks, Jesus' death and his resurrection are the proof of how much he loves us. Not the miracles, but his death is the proof of how much he loves us, that he would give his life for us. And his resurrection is the promise and the proof that he will bless us in ways that we can't even imagine. It might first be on the last day, when he returns in glory and all things are made new. But still we cling in faith and confidence to say, Jesus will give us everything we need. I hope you think about that a little bit as you're reading through the stories this week. I will see you again next week.